everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead, and welcome to episode 286, five updates to do for your scholarship profile this summer. We do an occasional yearly career advancement podcast episode where I talk about some of the tasks that we don't have time to do during the academic year, but we're able to sometimes do over the summer just to stay on track with a potential career move, or if we want to apply for a grant, or we want to have an updated CV to provide to a journal if we're submitting something there. So I wanted to talk about five that I typically do in May. I'm running a little bit behind as this episode is being recorded in June of 2026, but I've also changed some of the updates that I usually do. So these are five things that you can do that are sort of tasks that don't really have a set time that need to happen, and they increase your scholarship profile. So the first one would be to update your ORCID ID. In a previous episode, we talked about having an ORCID ID. If you're not sure what that is, that's a digital identifier for all of your scholarly work. And I will have a link to how to actually do that, why you need it, everything like that. We have an episode about that. But in general, it's a spot where you can load some of your publications and your credentials, but also it pulls from the web to grab some of those as well. So it's a little bit more robust than a Google Scholar profile because it's something that includes all kinds of things like education and all that. So one of the things that I did when I first got an ORCID ID, maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3, I added in any publications that I couldn't get from the web or weren't showing up, and I put in as much as I could. But there's still more things that I want to add that aren't necessarily scraped. They need to be added by me. And so one of the things I did first was update my ORCID ID because that will translate how I update everything else. So here's what I mean by that. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my ORCID ID profile is open. And I just wanted to add in a book chapter for an edited collection because while ORCID has some of my actual books, it has some articles that I've written and things like that, I notice with edited collection book chapters, sometimes those are missing. And I just had a chapter included in a collection on writing emergencies. So I'll also link to that in our show notes today because it's a great collection. I'm very excited to be a part of it, but also for many of us that support writers, I know we have a lot of faculty developers on the episode. This would be something that would be really cool to check out. So just fun side note. But anyway, what I ended up doing was I just looked very quickly at my list of publications. Since I updated it a couple of years ago, I was really only paying attention to years 2024 through 2026. And so what I figured out is I pretty much just need to add this book chapter, which I did. So I just went in, you can edit your profile. I added it in. It took about, 2 minutes maybe to add that. And now my ORCID profile is up to date. I also double checked on some publication information for 2 books that I had come out in 2025. Those were already in the profile, but I realized there was a typo and there was a couple other things that were a little bit off. So I just updated some of the things about that because you can provide a description. Also, a CV. This is one to do every summer. Nobody really likes doing it. Sometimes we only do it when we're looking for a job or we're applying for a grant, but I did do it this summer. And how I ended up doing it this time around, because my CV is publicly available, it's out everywhere, it's on my personal website, I had no problem downloading this one into AI. And what I basically said was, can you update my CV with new publications from my ORCID profile? And then I provided the link to my profile. It was able to pull most things, and there wasn't all that much that was new. There were a couple of conference presentations and things like that. And so I did have to kind of help AI along. I did a lot of it with the AI prompt to get the new information in there. But then while I was there, I've never done this before, but I looked at the formatting for my CV and I decided it's really boring and I really have not updated it probably in 20 years. So it's a fine functional CV, but it's not glamorous. So one of the other things that I did was I asked it to update the formatting for my CV. I'm still technically playing with it, so I don't have a final version to show on screen yet. But if you look on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see what my old one looked like, and it's just kind of boring. So I'm still playing with it a little bit. One of the things that I figured out is that it is pretty able to. I should say this. I'm using Claude, so Claude was able to maintain a lot of the spacing and weird things that happen with CVs. If you have a newer CV that you made in some kind of a template, you'll be so much better off. Mine was actually created probably with a very, very old template in Microsoft Word. So stay tuned on that. But I decided, it was able to add publications in the right spots without messing up the spacing, and it could figure out which categories to put them in. So knowing that, I felt pretty comfortable just saying, hey, can you redesign this in a more like modern academic way? So that CV process. I'm still in the middle of the design because I'm kind of deciding between two or three designs, and I just wanted 24 hours to think about it. But total for me to update this, it probably took me about an hour because I had a couple of other things to do since I was ending a few administrative positions, and I needed to put some like term limits and stuff in there. This is another thing. So once I started doing the CV, I realized I need to update my email signature because I had two administrative positions that I no longer have, and I have a new position that I wanted to put on there. So I just figured out, I went into my email, I clicked the little settings button. I have Outlook. And then for anybody using Outlook trying to do this, I just typed the word signature in there and I found it right away. And then I just went in there and edited my signature. Because one of the things that I realized is that in the last year, I've become the vice president of the Textbook and Academic Authors Association. So I wanted to put that in the signature. And then again, I've lost two administrative roles. I'll lose them. I haven't technically lost them yet, but I will lose them by the end of this month. So one of the things I wanted to do is just clean up my signature. And also, for those of you that have new publications, maybe you want to have a link to a new publication or something in your signature. I have a link to my personal website where I also load those publications. So the signature itself, this took me 2 minutes to fix it, but totally worth doing for sure. For number four, because I was updating everything else, I went and updated my LinkedIn profile. And I pretty much only needed to add in the new book chapter. Everything else was up to date. But when I was clicking around a little bit to see if there was anything else I could do to update something quickly, I noticed when I looked in my experience, my work experience, which lists my academic positions, there was a spot, I don't know if there was a spot there before, where I could upload a video. And I had a video taken about a research project that I did at the university. So I just really quickly loaded that video. I found it on YouTube, threw the link in there, and wrote a one-sentence description, which you can see on LinkedIn. And as you can kind of see how we're going through these 5 steps to update our scholarship profiles, I really started with the ORCID ID because to me, that is considered the master record of everything that I have in academia. I trust it more than Google Scholar. To me, it's like the digital record that will follow all of the work that I do. So I started there first, then I went to the CV, and then I went to my email signature. So I kind of had a step down process. Normally I would start with the CV, but this time I started with ORCID. Also, I went then to LinkedIn. So this is step number 4, if you're keeping track, to just do any updates that I could do there. And then finally, I have my 5th step I'm going to do is update my personal website. I debated about putting in updating my Google Scholar profile, but one of the things that I've noticed is that it does go, Google Scholar grabs publications better than it has before. And so when I looked at it, it was pretty much up to date. And this is what it looks like when I'm updating my Google Scholar profile. Or not Google Scholar profile, my personal website profile. I've got Google Scholar on the brain right now. Personal website profile. I just have an old personal website in WordPress, and I'm able to edit in there. So these are the things that I worked through, and I'm hoping this helps you as you work through some summer tasks you might want to tackle this summer to update your scholarship profile. Finally, I encourage you to check out our show notes where we have a link to an upcoming free webinar on 5 entry points to your writing that we're running again in July if you want to get some summer writing done. So check all those links out there, and happy writing this week.